before you jump into a training and a career change, you'd want to know if it is sustainable, which makes sense because it's a bit risky doing that. So let's get into it. Okay, so I have been the primary provider for my household as a birth doula for almost 20 years, most of those being a single parent. So it is possible. Also, I was doing this like back in the day where not a lot of folks knew what a doula was, and obviously the rate in which we could charge was much lower, and it was before the days of insurance. So that's amazing because now insurance, especially for those of you living in the US, insurance will cover doula care. And some of the plans, it's up to $3,500. So, that's incredible. That means you can make a living wage and be supporting folks who would otherwise not have that support or be able to afford that support. So, like, so much has changed in the doula world, which is great. And it's now easier than ever to make money doing this. So care work obviously has been historically undervalued and has been done by the majority of the time women and queer folks. And so, we need to make the shift around how we present ourselves, how we price ourselves, because workforce sustainability research shows that it's, we have burnout and we leave the field when we're, continuously and chronically undervalued and underpaid for what we do. So obviously your doula training should prepare you for the business side of it, should prepare you for, unlearning some of those money blocks you might have, prepare you to talk about pricing and how to present your pricing. So you don't have kind of this collapse as soon as someone's like, oh my gosh, you're amazing. How much is your package? And you're like, $2,000. I'm really sorry. We have payment plans. Like, I could do it with a discount, like, those kind of things. Because that's how a lot of people feel when they talk about the money part. Okay, so I know you want to see, what are some of the numbers. So let's look at this. So let's first start with, if you are a birth doula, this is working part-time in a small town. Now, I'm going to show the difference between part-time and full-time small town living in a city because the rates are different. So this is a guess that it's about $1,500. That could be more. So like, this is a conservative. This is their training year. So I've added a little note there that it's like, we're assuming 2 of the 12 months are going to be for your training and your certification. If you take ours, that would be 3 or 4 of the 12 months. However, you can be taking you can be taking clients while you are a student. Okay, so in this situation, $1,500 per birth. They've taken 2 births a month. That's for 10 months, so $30,000. So that's about what you can expect as a birth doula in part-time in a smaller community. Okay, let's look at what is full-time in a city. So these are kind of like the opposite ends of the spectrum. Again, this is your training year. So I've taken 2 months out for you to be going to school and learning some stuff. So this is if you attend 4 births per month for only 10 months of the year because it's your school year. And this is $2,500 per birth. Again, this is at the low end of what you would charge in a city. It's anywhere from 2,500 to 5,000. So now we're in 6 figures. Hot damn. And this is your training year. Now, this would, we'll talk about how to get those clients, but that means you do need to have 4 clients a month. So you need to find 40 clients, which is very doable in a city. Okay, let's look at what do you make as a birth doula when you're working part-time in a small town your second year. So you're going to see that's year 2 because we didn't have those training months, 36,000. Amazing. And that's great because really you're only out of the house for work for 2 births. And the rest of the time you can do what you need to do. Take care of your kids, take care of your pets, your aging parents, other paid labor, volunteer work, sleep, whatever you want to do. Then write that book you've always wanted to. Okay, now we're in year 2. This is a birth doula full-time in a city, $2,500 a birth. Realistically, you probably could go to $3,000 a birth for your second year if you've done 40 clients in your first. But again, I kept it on the lower end. So now we're at 120,000. Incredible. Okay, for those of you that are like, what about the postpartum doulas? Let's look at that. What do you make as a postpartum doula? Again, this is full-time in a city. So I've broken this down that you've done 7 overnights over the course of the month. and that you're charging about $60 per hour, and you do 100 hours of care, and you do this for 12 months. So again, we've broken that six-figure mark, so at about 101,000. And then if you're working as a postpartum doula part-time in a smaller community, the rate I went down to $40 an hour. So you might have two clients, and one of them you do for 40 hours, one you do for 20, and you're making about $29,000, which is great. So in our training, this is something that we teach you about. Registration is open. We have that early bird code, so you can jump in there and grab a spot in our maternal support practitioner training, which is our full spectrum doula training. But you're probably wondering, how do I get those clients? So we are going to tackle that in the next video.